And here we are in the street called Boživojeva after a very famous Czech writer. It's a very great street. There's about 20 pubs in this street and a couple of bordellos, not to mention sex shops and various other disreputable establishments. Anyway, this pub here, Nad Viktorko, Hospodka Nad Viktorko, is actually the place where Pratajev met his love, Ludmila. Ludmila was working here one night when Pratajev was very, very drunk, head on the table, totally drunk. Pub was closed, the lights were put out, and Ludmila seduced him. Or I should rather say she heaved him across her shoulder and kidnapped him and took him upstairs to her flat up here. And this is where the story really gets interesting. This is where the father of Jáda Švec was conceived, in this room up here above Nad Viktorko. And we're going to go inside now, and I'm going to read a little bit from Professor Bulbacek's book, A History of the Republic of Žižkov. So, here we are inside the Nad Viktorko pub, the very pub where Ludmila was working as a barmaid, over there on that bar. Could you show the bar, cameraman, please? Yes, that was where Ludmila was working the night she met Pratajev. Pratajev was sitting here, totally drunk, depressed from his medical work, the terrible things he saw. And it came to be closing time. Pratajev was asleep with his head on the table. Ludmila was standing over there, and she saw her chance. And I'm going to read from Professor Bulbacek's book now. On the night in question, Pratajev was particularly the worse for wear, and continued to sit with his forehead on the table long after last orders had been called and the lights turned out in the bar. Finally, only he and Ludmila remained, and seizing her chance, she locked the pub door, heaved him across her sturdy shoulders, and carried him upstairs to her bed. From the condition he was in, it might seem surprising that Pratajev was capable of performing even the most basic of amatory functions. However, Ludmila Kvasničkova was experienced in the arts of love and refused to accept defeat. And finally, after many false starts, the fateful deed was accomplished. I think that's a beautiful passage from Professor Bulbacek's book, True Love, Pratajev and Ludmila. And another little known fact about Pratajev, not only was he a great doctor, a great lover, a great poet, he was also a great architect. In the course of my visit to Prague, I found out that Pratajev actually designed this here TV tower. This is back in 1945, and I met a man in a pub who showed me similar beer mats to this that Pratajev had actually drawn upon in the same pub where he met Ludmila one night while he was a little drunk, and he came up with this design. He drew it on beer mats similar to this. I'm just finishing off my own version of this. It's something like, of course Pratajev's was much more accomplished. I can't describe the feeling I get walking along these Žižkov streets, knowing that once Pratajev himself walked the same streets. It's a beautiful neighborhood. Look. Žižkov. And here at last we have reached the end of our odyssey. The house where Pratajev lived. Number 4 Lipanska Street, Žižkov. Up there in that little garret room, the one with the flowers outside, is where Pratajev lived in the spring, summer, autumn and winter of 1945, while he was practicing his medical work here, helping his Slavic brothers. This is the garret room where he would compose his poetry before going to Nad Viktorko pub to drown his sorrows. The home of Pratajev. I'm standing now on the hill of Vitkov, just above Žižkov, and behind me you can see the mausoleum that was designed for the communist leaders of Czechoslovakia. Only 2 of them are buried there, Gottwald and Husak, because something happened, and it was supposed to last 1,000 years and to house all the communist prime ministers ever after, but as we know, these great plans don't always work. And to my right you can see the equestrian statue of the great Bohemian general Jan Žižka. Žižkov is named after him, who fought successfully against the Habsburgs in 1420 to defend Prague against the forces of the papacy and the Habsburgs. So cameraman, if you could just track up and show this wonderful statue of Jan Žižka sitting on his horse. Jesus Christ, that horse has got the biggest set of balls I've ever seen in my life. Whoa. Wonderful. At last, in the magical streets of Žižkov, we are about to meet the great János Švec doing what he does best, making music. Unfortunately at the moment it doesn't seem possible to get in the pub, but we'll wait a little while and we'll hope we can get in to see the band that János is producing. If you could just show the grandson of the great Pratajev, cameraman please, this way. If you could get a shot of Mr. Švec. If you could follow me inside the pub. Somewhere down there. Oh, there.